Hello, and welcome back to the Action Network Soccer Betting Preview Show. My name is Michael Leboff. I am the soccer editor here at Action, and today I am joined by Anthony Dabbundo of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and BJ Cunningham of Ames, Iowa. And guys, there are a couple best betting practices here that we like to abide by at the Action Network that kind of transcend sports, right? You can use it in the NFL, you can use it in soccer, you can use it in the NBA, whatever you want. And one of them is the overreaction, right? In week one of the NFL season, if the Jaguars blow out the Patriots the next week, perhaps those two teams are, it's a good buy low, sell high spot for those teams. That same philosophy can be used in soccer. We saw a lot of interesting results in week one. We saw some upsets. We saw some fringe title contenders look really good. We saw the defending champions lose. So that begs a question. Which game from match week 2 do you think has seen the biggest overreaction in the market?
I think it's Southampton and Manchester United. I mean, listen, obviously Southampton was one of the worst teams over the second half of last season and coming into this season, selling Danny Ings and then recently Jannik Vestergaard doesn't help their case. But in my opinion, this line's kind of getting a little bit out of hand. Before Manchester United or Southampton even kicked the ball, according to Sports Insights, Man United was only at minus 120. Well, now they've shot up to minus 165 after beating Leeds 5-1. But I want to remind people that Manchester United only created 1.27 expected goals in that match. And all 4 of their goals in the second half came off of their only 4 shots in the final 45 minutes. Now, if you go look at recent history between these two teams, you'll obviously see, oh my gosh, Man United beat Southampton 9-0 last year. But, you got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because, Southampton got a red card 30 seconds into that match. But from a price perspective, Southampton is starting to get a little bit bettable. If you can get their spread of +1 at maybe minus 115 or better, I think that's pretty good because, Southampton wasn't that bad at home last year. All their struggles really came on the road. They had like a little over a negative 12 expected goal differential on the road, but they're about even at home. So yeah, if this line gets shot up around match time and I can get Southampton at a good price at +1, I think I have to take that.
That sounds like a terrible way to spend a Sunday morning. Anthony, what about you? What team do you think has seen the biggest overcorrection from their match week 1 performance?
It has to be Brentford because of how well they looked on the opening day at home. First Premier League match in 74 years. They beat Arsenal 2-0. And give them credit, they played well. They looked very dangerous on the counterattack. They limited Arsenal to 22 very low quality shots. But Arsenal didn't have a ton of issues getting into the penalty area, and Brentford really didn't offer that much resistance until that point. And they're not going to be able to play on the counter as much in this situation against Crystal Palace, where they're going to be expected to create a little bit more, where Palace is going to look to hit them on the counter. That line's also moved about 30 cents. Palace is now about pretty much a pick 'em in that game at home. So Brentford now, you get the huge win against another London club, and now you have to go on the road for the first time. I think Palace is a little undervalued here. It's getting close to the point where I want to bet it.
This is how the show is going to work. We'll give you guys our favorite bet for the Premier League to start. Then we'll go over our entire Premier League card for the weekend. Following that, we're going to talk about our favorite bet in the other European leagues. And then the grand finale, of course, is our favorite underdog. And we got to thank the commenters from last week because Anthony and I both were talking about how much we love Leeds. BJ was in on it too. They delivered a beautiful 5-1 loss for us, got us a lot of stick. Keep those comments coming because that's the lifeblood of the show. So we'll start off. I'm going to kick it off with my favorite Premier League bet for this weekend. BJ, you're wearing their jersey. I actually think the Watford-Brighton draw has a lot of value. Neither of these two teams, I know both of them looked all right in their first week performance. Watford especially, they looked like almost like Brentford, right? They were on the front foot against an Aston Villa side that was a decent favorite, scoring 3 goals. Ismail Assar looked great. Dennis looked great. Like the front two looked like they were working together well. I actually think that there was probably a little bit of a market overreaction to them. But this team last year, like their success in the championship came through their defense, right? They've third best expected goals against in the championship. They allowed the fewest goals in the Division 2. And then we all know about Brentford, right? Like they have a lot of trouble finishing their chances. They may create more chances than their opponent on average, but they don't really have the strike force to clean them up. And they also were a great defensive team. They were the third best team by expected goals against in the Premier League last year. So This over-under set at 2.25 with the under juice a little bit, -115. I think this is going to be a pretty tight game. I could see it 0-0. I could see it 1-1. I like the draw right now sitting at +240. I would bet it to like 225, 230. Wouldn't go that much lower, but that right now is my favorite bet on the board. And that once again is a Saturday 12:30 p.m. kickoff.
I'm going to go Monday at 3:00. So West Ham against Leicester. I'm going to go West Ham draw no bet at -110. I mean, the Hammers had an electric offense last year, averaged 1.59 expected goals, which was the 5th best mark in the Premier League. And that offense showed up against Newcastle because they put 4 goals by him and averaged and created 3.15 expected goals. They basically just lived inside of Newcastle's final third with 214 touches there, 32 touches also in their penalty area, and 29 shot creating actions. And now they're going up against a Leicester team that's coming in pretty banged up. As of right now, Johnny Evans, Ryan Bertrand, James Justin, and central midfielders Fofana and Mendy are all going to be out for this match. One of their star attacking midfielders, James Maddison, and their starting right back, Timothy Castagne, are both questionable. So, and honestly, Leicester didn't really look that great against Wolves, even though they won 1-0. They got outcreated 1.66 expected goals to 0.55. West Ham was one of the best teams at home last season. They had 34 points, which was the 2nd best mark in the Premier League. I honestly don't think the Hammers should be a pick'em right now against Leicester at home. So I have them projected at +111. So I think you're getting good value right now on West Ham draw no bet at -110.
Yeah, I'm going Chelsea, Arsenal under 2.5 goals. Chelsea, they got the over in last weekend, scored 3 against Palace, as I mentioned in the last thing. Did not impress me much. I went back and rewatched that game, and I thought that they had some nice attacking patterns, but it was very similar to last year where they weren't able to get those big scoring chances.
That leads pretty well into the next section where we'll tell you our entire card. Once again, we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, so these could change. So be sure to keep an eye on the Action Network app. Follow Anthony, BJ, and myself there to see what we're betting each week in the Premier League and beyond. For me, I like Man United win to 0, +185. That's against Southampton. BJ, I know you think it's a bit an overreaction. I don't know when this Southampton team is going to bottom out, honestly. So I'm going to keep taking them on until they prove me otherwise. I went over Brighton, went Watford draw. I like Wolves +245 against Spurs in another game that I think the market maybe has moved too much towards Spurs after their win against City. And I like this one really sucks, but I like Arsenal +370 in that game that Anthony just broke down for a lot of the same reasons. I just think it's going to be pretty tight, and I think one goal could get the job done. So at a number like that, when Arsenal's at home, I'll take it. I'll take a chance at +370.
I'm going to start off with Brighton because, why wouldn't I bet Brighton every single week? And then a little foreshadowing, I'm going to go Wolves +250 to maybe my favorite underdog of the week. And in that same match, I'm going to go Wolves Tottenham over 2.5 goals at +132. We'll talk about that in length with the whole Harry Kane saga and everything, but I do still think there is a little value on that over. And then, like I just mentioned, West Ham draw no bet at -110.
Yeah, I already mentioned the Chelsea Arsenal under 2.5. You're going to see a lot of agreement this week between BJ and I, but that's my favorite pick of the week. But I also think that Brighton is undervalued at -130. A little bit of a shaky start in the first half. They gave up a goal in the 2nd minute. I thought it was a foul. It shouldn't have really counted, but it was kind of a fluky cross header at the back post kind of goal. And then for the most part, they really struggled to get going until they brought on McAllister later in the game. And then they got 2 cutbacks that led to 2 goals, which is how it should work for most teams. And didn't work for Brighton last year, but I have no reason to believe they're going to keep underperforming by as much as they did last year in terms of expected goals. And Watford, 2 deflected goals against Villa. Good for them. Great win, but now they're heading and going to have a much more tough game against Brighton. And then I agree with him on West Ham draw no bet. I think some early concerns about Leicester. I think it might take some time for them to get their team going, getting some guys back and fit. And then the pick I really like is City Norwich. Both teams to score yes is +140. Norwich actually did create a bunch of chances in transition against Liverpool and had a few big chances, especially at the end of that game where, it was pretty much already decided, but they created 2 or 3 big chances in the last 10 minutes. It's very easy to see how City could switch off here if they get up early or if they get up big. And then the other thing is that City's defense looked really vulnerable in transition against Tottenham. They allowed 5 shots from direct attacks, which is the most of any team in the Premier League opening weekend. And Norwich is the kind of team that can hit you and get at you in transition. We actually saw a couple of years ago, Norwich was 19-1 when they went and beat City 2-1 2 goals, one scored off a defensive error, one scored in transition. That was kind of the Guardiola team that couldn't stop anybody in transition. And I think that without Kyle Walker, who may not play again this weekend, they're going to be really vulnerable again in transition. Fernandinho looked absolutely cooked.
Let's move over to the continent, Europe proper, for your favorite Euro bet. I'll start it off because mine's a Friday kickoff, 2:30 p.m. in the Bundesliga. I like RB Leipzig laying a goal and a half against Stuttgart. Leipzig, not a great start under Jesse Marsch, but I'm very confident that they'll be able to get their defense settled. They led Bundesliga in expected goals against in 2020, 2021. I know Marsch wants to get that gegenpress going, but I have a lot of faith in them, especially at home, to be able to shut down a Stuttgart offense. They were 6th best in expected goals for, but 4th worst in expected goals against. If that game's wide open, I could see a 5-2 win for Leipzig over Pellegrino Matarazzo, an American. Wayne, New Jersey represent. His Stuttgart team, very impressive last year, but I think this will be a bridge too far for them. So I have no problem laying the goal and a half with Leipzig on Friday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. kickoff.
I'm going to go to France Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Metz against Stade de Reims. Stade de Reims is one of the biggest negative regression candidates in all of Europe, and I wrote about them kind of before the season, which you can find in the award-winning Action Network app right now. But last season, they finished 14th with a -8 goal differential, which on paper doesn't really look that bad. But they had a -28.56 expected goal differential. So they're basically the opposite of what Brighton is coming into the season. Also, they sold their number 1 striker, Bouladia, to Villarreal this summer. He created 40% of their expected goals last season. They have not brought in any replacements. And even with Dia in the lineup last season, they had the fewest shots inside the penalty area, 3rd fewest shot creating actions, and 3rd fewest touches in the opponent's final third in France. Their first 2 matches were draws, 0-0 against Nice, 3-3 against Montpellier. But in their typical fashion, they got outcreated 3.05 expected goals to 1.36. And, Metz, they're a mid-table side, but this isn't about them. This is about Reims. I'm going to be following this team all around France all season long until I can finally beat them. Give me Metz at +140. I have them projected at -122. So loads of value against Reims pretty much every single week.
Yeah, give me Gladbach Leverkusen under 3. We were so close to Gladbach money line. Oh man, there should have been a penalty late there. Thuram missing an absolute sitter, not able to get on the end of it. We were so close on Gladbach. Did get the spread in. But I was really impressed with Leverkusen's defense against Union Berlin. And obviously Union Berlin is not really an attacking open side, but they really shut them down. Both teams scored on their first shot, and then the rest of the game was completely dead. Leverkusen against Union ended 1-1, excuse me. But I think Gladbach specifically, they go up against Bayern, and, they conceded plenty of chances. Don't get me wrong, but Jan Sommer is on a roll right now, and he's obviously carried over his form from the Euros. Bayern, 2.7 expected goals, only scored once. Sommer made multiple huge saves. And I think there's the one thing that the market tends to undervalue is when a goalkeeper is running way ahead of his expected goals. And we know it's a good goalkeeper in Sommer. Somebody, the market tends to underrate these keepers. And that's another reason to get behind the under here. Leverkusen also has been an under team for the last almost 2 years now, pretty much since they lost that cup final to Bayern when they lost 4-2. The last year and a half, they've been an under team. Their attack has not been very good. Their defense has been sturdier than usual. So I think this game is probably a 1-1, type of a game, maybe a 2-1. We push it worst, but I really, my projections only have it at 2.81 goals. So I don't mind playing under 3, which is currently -110.
All right. That brings us to the showpiece of the show, our favorite underdog bet. Once again, these are going to be some big prices. So don't come after us if they lose. I'm going to get it started with a very big price, one of the biggest ones in Serie A for the weekend. That's Genoa +800 against reigning champions Inter Milan at 12:30. I just think it's a good situation to take on Inter. I'll keep it pretty simple. Obviously, Lukaku's gone. Christian Eriksen is still working his way back to health. Hakimi's gone. Genoa were terrible last year. Inter were great. They were pretty deserving champions. It's a really, really tough bet to make and to stomach. But if you're going to take them on, if you're going to take on a defending champion, we just saw Man City lose to Tottenham. You never know. Tottenham's just as bad as Genoa. We're just kidding. I just think this is the right situation to do it. Big price.
I'm going to take Wolves +250 against Tottenham on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Like I mentioned with Leicester, even though Wolves lost 1-0, they were the better team in that match. They outcreated Leicester 1.66 expected goals to 0.55. They outshot them 17-9, 27 shot creating actions to Leicester's 14. This will be a very interesting encounter, obviously, with Nuno Espirito Santos on the other sideline, the former Wolves manager. But if Wolves looks as lively as they did against Leicester, they should be able to break down a Tottenham defense that allowed Manchester City to create 2.3 expected goals on Sunday.
My money line underdog pick is Augsburg plus 475. Throw some lunch money on it. They win. You have 4.75 lunches next week for free. It's just a straight on track Frankfurt fade. I faded them last week against Dortmund. Dortmund absolutely steamrolled them 5-2. It easily could have been 5-6-0. There was an own goal in there for Dortmund. I don't think Frankfurt took a shot in the first half from inside the penalty area. So Frankfurt has looked awful under new manager Oliver Glasner. It's taken them some significant time to sort out their defensive issues. They don't have a recognized striker who has any Bundesliga success rate in the past since they sold Andre Silva. I just want to fade this team every way I can until they start to figure things out. So I'm going to get some Augsburg, even though you could make an argument Augsburg was actually worse in the first week, getting absolutely annihilated by Hoffenheim. Give me Augsburg for plus 475 to win against Frankfurt on the road.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty painful one too. So that's a Saturday morning kickoff.
That's right. That's Saturday 9:30.
Yeah, Saturday 9:30 to get the 3-leg parlay kicked off, and it'll pay out a robust 178 to 1. Obviously, we just missed last week by going a straight 0-3 on our 138 to 1 parlay. So we're due for a win, 178 to 1. That's Genoa, Augsburg, and of course Wolverhampton on Sunday.
3 unbelievably good teams.
Yeah, this is gonna be just. You might want to watch all 3 of those games alone. That's all I'll say about those. So that'll do it for today's show. For BJ, for Anthony, I'm Michael, and we'll see you back next week when we are all rich beyond our wildest dreams, thanks to our 178 to 1 parlay.